Krásný podvečer, všechny vás zdravím, mé jméno je Václav Němeček, jsem průvodcem mužských kruhů a průvodcem krásného výcviku pro páry, partnerská cesta a velmi úzce spolupracuji na velmi zajímavých projektech a pro ten dnešní večer ke mně a k mému kamarádovi Gregorovi, Kušurovi, Steinerovi přišla velmi zajímavá otázka, kterou mnoho mužů řeší a ta se týká pornografie. Proč je kolem porna a pornografie tolik otázek, proč je tady tolik zmatku a nejistoty, kterou slyšíme od mužů, ale i od žen a od partnerských párů. A tak jsme se rozhodli natočit toto krátké video s povídáním a s jakýmsi odborným náhledem Gregora, který se tématem sexuality zabývá už přes 15 let a společně vytváříme právě výcvik a řekněme bezpečný prostor pro muže, kde se takovými otázkami zabýváme. A proto vás srdečně zvu k tomu, abyste naslouchali a nechali se inspirovat tím, jaké zkušenosti s touto otázkou a tématem máme my. A třeba vás to navede k tomu, abyste něco ve svém životě v této otázce začali dělat jinak, nebo se nad tím jenom prostě zamysleli. A já tady chci přivítat Gregora a přepnu se do anglického jazyka, protože Gregor je anglicky mluvící a celý zbytek toho našeho povídání bude v angličtině. So, hello Gregor. Nice to see you after a long time.
Everybody. Hi Václav.
Can you please shortly introduce yourself, who you are, what is your main scope of the work that you do with men especially, and how come did you come to do such a work?
Right. So first of all, thank you for inviting me here. And well, a short introduction would be, I don't know what you said about me already now. I don't unfortunately speak Czech that well yet. So I'm from Austria and I live in Austria again. And my background is that I'm a systemic therapist and trained in a variety of therapeutic modalities. And I have also a very strong background in coming from my own passion in my search for meaning in life through finding it through meditation and kind of the world of spirituality in a very embodied sense. And on the way to find my own way, I also came across that I kind of lacked, or I found out that I lacked role models and healthy connections to what a masculine strength would look like on the path to become more conscious. And that's what led me then through my work and my own journey very much to get interested and passionate about working with men, which is now a big part of my work that I'm offering internationally. And so I'm working with seminars and groups and trainings, also together with my wife, Kamala. And we do work together and also each of us individually. And individually this working with men one-on-one and in this longer trainings is a big love and passion and a big part of my work. And that's what we're also talking about today.
That's great to hear. I'm so glad that people like you are here. I'm so glad that I've met you several years ago. And you were, well, actually the first man actually to introduce me into conscious masculine sexuality. I never had such an experience before. And I really adore and thank you very much for the guidance. So this is actually a hard thing for me as well, because this is something very beautiful to do. I've worked with men as well, but you do on a little certain or different level. I really admire it as well. So, thank you for introducing yourself. So, why is there so many questions? Why is there so many issues? Why is there so much anxiety, insecurity, doubt about and around porn and pornography? What can you say to this with your experience?
Right. Well, it's a short phrase, and at the same time, it's a really, really big question. And I'm actually, first of all, I just want to say thank you also to hold this space and to invite a kind of a space that we can talk about this, because there is very little places, I think, where men can really talk about this by now, how big this has become, and really talk and connect and find kind of more guidance and meaning around this question. And it's really interesting. In a way, coming from another place, I could say we could be thankful to porn that it exists, because it makes us aware of maybe some of the most important questions that we as men have to, as humans also, but as men even more, have to kind of face and work with nowadays. Kind of it gives us a highlight spot on perspective on all the things that maybe are not really working so well in the way we defined how to live as a man up until now. And I'm going to unpack a little bit what I mean with this. And so, in a way, porn, I would say, kind of falls into the vacuum where men in our modern times have very little or almost no training or kind of skills of knowing how to relate clearly to my power as a man, and also to my drive, to my sexual drives, to my desires, and all these things that we all have. And I've been working in many different places of the world, in different cultures, and it's crazy that when you talk to men, like, everybody has been exposed to porn. Like, literally everybody. Whatever culture you go, how the internet is structured or not, everybody finds a way through, and everybody gets exposed to it. And so it means that is something that is like speaking to every man on the planet right now. It's interesting. At the same time, you get almost no place where you can really share that with your buddies, with your friends, with mentors, in a way that you can actually learn what's happening there. Because we kind of all go there like addicted people to get our chunk of sugar, and then kind of back and pretend it didn't happen, and nobody talks about it until we go back. And it's very predictable, but there's not much movement in this way. We just kind of get more and more hooked to something that works, obviously, because porn industry, if you look at the numbers, is one of the biggest kind of money-making machines on the internet. It even drives technological advancement because it creates so much money and attention. It's really interesting. So we deal basically with something that is very, very powerful, but we have very little awareness, I would say, most of us, unless we start really working for this, how to deal with this. So we're kind of like dealing with a big monster, but nobody talks about it. And for this, I'm really glad that there is more and more spaces like this happening, and the work that you do and that many other people do with men, where we can start talking about this and reflecting on what's actually going on in there. Because it's a powerful drug in a way, porn. And I'm not here to say that porn is bad or anything like this, because that's kind of missing the point, I would say. Like with any abuse, you have to look not why is this bad, but what is driving you to get hooked to something that actually in the long run is not healthy for you if you take too much of it. And I think that's a big part to understand, that we don't want to judge it as bad. We also don't want to say, yeah, just everybody go for it, it's free. It's a powerful thing, and we need to learn how to relate to it, because it's not going to go away, that's for sure. Like we kind of opened the box, we liberated ourselves sexually, now everything is possible. It's a great advancement from the repression that we lived for a few hundreds of years in the Western world. But now it's open, and now the question is there, how am I going to do with it? How am I going to deal with this? And it's a question that I hear from many, many men again and again. And it's about porn, but it's also what it kind of brings us to when we look at the situation of porn addictions or just unhealthy habits, because it's not, porn is not the enemy, but it's important to look where does it make me look in my life where I didn't look before. What's going on in there? What's going on in my relationships? What's going on in my life? How am I dealing with my sexuality? Where do I miss maybe adventure and fulfillment in my life? And then how do I deal with something that gives us this hyper normal stimuli, as it's called now, like a world that is not real? Because, hate to break it to you, but what you see in porn is not the real world. It's highly sophisticated, designed world with a lot of professional expertise by now to make it look very real and to hook everybody's like most basic desires. It's designed to make addictive, to make addicted, and that's why it works. So that's a bit like the first view I would give on the subject, why it is such a huge subject. So it brings us basically to look at all the things where we are not conscious in our way of dealing with our sexuality, in relationship to our power, to our mind, and to our habits, and all of those things.
Thank you. That's a very good overview, or a view which is all around this topic. I like it, that you can sum it up, and maybe anybody who is listening now can just feel, is this an issue for you? Is this porn an issue for you? Do you watch porn? Don't you watch porn? Does your girlfriend watch porn? I don't know.
Right.
It is very important, because what I really liked about your point was, actually there's also something good about it. It is driving us to really deep down focus and feel and be more conscious about the sexual desire, this all sexual behavior that we are dealing with, the force which is in everybody's body. And by this pornography industry being here, it is just triggering. It's saying it's here, we know, and we can hook you up if you're not conscious or something. So this is something what I really adore. This is something really positive.
Right. And I would maybe just hook in with 2 points on what you said. First of all, also, I think it's really important to first of all look at it not as a problem, because whenever we focus on a problem, the problem gets bigger. But it's very empowering to see actually what drives me in all of these things, whether it's porn, whether it's other social media things, or any other kind of unhealthy habit that you've developed too much in your life as a man or as a human being. All underneath, there's always power, which is your power of life that just gets kind of sidetracked to places that you don't know anymore how to control. So in there's always power, and I think we cannot work with problems without really looking what is the power underneath. Otherwise, we just get into a battle with our patterns, and we all know how that looks like when you try to just by pure force only kind of take on a different habit. It will somehow create side effects in some other places. I will come back to that in a moment, but I want to say also, like what you said, like for people who are listening now, just to check, is that a problem or is that an issue in my life? I think I would invite you just to have a look. I would call it an issue if you feel this is somehow starting to influence my way of relating in the normal world. If you're in a relationship, how it Is it influencing in a way that you don't like? Is it influencing your sexual relationship with your partner? Or like I see now with young men more and more, it kind of inhibits them from actually finding a relationship, because nobody looks like the stories that you see in the internet, because it's a high polished, perfect world that in this way does not exist in reality. So create already kind of unhealthy, unrealistic concepts and standards about, well, how does sex look like, or even that teenagers kind of get their sexual addictions from porn, which is really bad, because then you start with things that I didn't even know when I was 20. I probably didn't even know this existed. Now every 10-year-old knows everything about that. Mm-hmm. So you start in a way too fast with too much intensity in your sexual development. But anyway, wherever you are, if you're there, just to check, so does my way of consuming porn, or not kind of wanting to touch porn, which could be like I just ban that from my life, but that is also based on fear, like I cannot control this. So however is your relationship with porn? Does it have an influence in your daily life that you don't appreciate, that you don't like? And if the answer is kind of yes, then there's an invitation to look, what is happening there? And the way I would work with this is not to say, okay, bad porn, switch off your internet or go into a cave, disconnect from the world, because it's not going to work for long. But to see, what is this kind of experiences that I have? What is this inviting me to look more in my life? And it kind of becomes, in this way, like you said, it's not just a problem. Actually, it can become an invitation. But for this, we can talk a bit more about this today. We need a bit of an orientation of how does this work? Because it's kind of a complex territory. Sexuality is one of the strongest drives in a human being and in men. So it has a lot of power. So it's easy to get kind of sidetracked with ideas or concepts, but it's something that we want to learn more and more to follow a kind of inner navigation, not so much how I just intellectually talk about it. That I feel I can choose more and more how I want to relate and work with this power and this force in myself.
It's good to hear. I have maybe quite easy question that might come up in everybody's listening mind would be, do you have some experience that you have collected so far of some, say, bad results or bad influence that can watching porn or seeing porn, not regularly, say, or often, on a relationship or also on the psychic of such a man? Do you have some experience that you have collected so far that you have seen or listened to stories of such men or women so that we can collect what outcome could be there? Because you were talking about somebody, does it touch you, this issue? Is there any bad outcome out of this on your relationship? Could you name some of these that could be in the rank of the bad ones that we could really start being more aware? Okay, this could happen. This is possible because this has been happening to somebody else.
Right. Yeah, I'm glad to bring it to this practical point. And still before that, I like to say that I actually, even if you have a good relationship with porn or a healthy, let's say right now, I still think it's a question for every man right now. Because even if you yourself right now are not affected, it might be a question if you're a father or a parent, it might be a question for your children, or it will be for your children at one point in their lives. And maybe you know friends or colleagues or brothers or fathers or whatever who are struggling with this, because we're all on the internet, we're all bombarded with kind of this constant seduction to a quick fix of our desires, because everything's structured like this. So it's not only porn, it's even social media. Some people, I don't watch porn, but I'm hooked to Facebook or whatever else is there, Instagram. It's similar patterns in a way, that we're hooked to something that gives us an overpromise and a kind of a not connection to our body and to the real life. And so to your question, in a way, it's already that if this, the screen there, what's going on, already becomes more important than my lived relationships, it's something to look at. Whether it's sexually or just emotionally with friendships or partnerships, that you start to live more and more in this, investing your mind more in a kind of fantasy reality, then you find fulfillment in your direct relationships. So, and one side effect is that people basically feel less and less, because porn is not, and the internet is not bound to make you feel, it's bound to stimulate your brain, but it's not bringing you into your body. So a lot of people maybe even have relationships, have a sexual life, but it's kind of stays shallow or doesn't really feel fulfilling. And then there is this feeling, oh, we should maybe try this or do that. I've seen that on the internet, or like this kind of desire. And even more, when it goes more intense, there's a lot of people who spend enormous amounts of hours and life energy basically in either watching porn or engaging in this kind of chat rooms or things like this, basically investing into a bubble that doesn't really satisfy your body. And of course, this can have all kind of consequences in your relationship and also in your body, because any minute you spend on the internet is mostly not spent a minute that you really feel yourself. And you can, even when you listen to this right now, supposed to be healthy, you can, even now you can check when you listen to us, do you feel yourself sitting here as a man? Do you feel your breath? Do you actually notice that you are a body that breathes, that sits, that feels, and that you're taking in information? Yeah. And it's very simple, but it's very powerful, because our brains are kind of hijacked by this world normally, that we're kind of sucked into this. And then it can have all kind of effects of even erectile dysfunctions in sexuality, that you're training in a way more and more this quick arousal, but also quick relief as a man, which makes it more and more difficult to really enjoy and to enjoy your sensuality, and or basically spending your life energy away and using porn as a distraction, using it as a kind of a compensation, like the kind of goodie that you treat yourself with. So it becomes like an almighty powerful tool how you regulate yourself. But like, it's like trying to nourish yourself with sugar or with fast food. It satisfies your craving, but it doesn't really nourish yourself. And eventually it maybe has just very little symptoms, but still, if we look deeper and deeper, it actually can create more and more of a disconnection. Like, and the one really strong effect that happens a lot is that it accumulates kind of shame, or this kind of feeling of a disconnection in myself, that you want something, you actually feel maybe it's not so good, I don't really feel well watching so much porn or investing time in this. Still, it pulls you in, like any addiction pulls you in, even if you don't want. Then you give in, it feels good for the moment, but then it creates another cycle of you're not feeling well about yourself. So you kind of maybe judge yourself or blame yourself or tell yourself it's okay, but actually you don't feel well in your body. And then it can become a really unhealthy spiral of where you lose more and lose the touch or the connection with yourself. And that's where every addiction, or that's the recipe for any addiction, basically. So this gives maybe a bit of a board of possibilities what can happen out of this. And just what I see every day in my practice when I work with couples, that it comes in and there's often very much disconnection between partners. And the problem with porn is that it's always available. That's the fucking damn thing. Like, you have it on your phone, like everybody has reception all the time by now. It used to be difficult, you know, you need to go somewhere in the old times, buy a magazine or go to a cinema or something like this. Now it's like there all the time. It's great, and it's a problem. So we need to learn how to deal with this, that we are so powerful by now through our mobile phones, through our internet technology. Because your wife's not talking to you, you have a problem, you know, this is always available. For real relationships, it's not like this. Life doesn't work like this. Life is not always just there, everything if I just want it. It's something I have to invest time, I have to learn. If I have a conflict, what's going on there, I have to give myself to it. And then that brings a much deeper satisfaction also out of it. But it's more demanding than just switch on the phone and go. So it's a way it serves our more unintegrated tendencies, I would say, our more immature desires and structures. It's not so easy. If everything's all right, all that's easily available, you don't have so much motivation to develop, until you maybe come to a place where you feel like, fuck, this doesn't feel good or right anymore. I need to look at this. And that's actually a good place to honor. If you feel, oh, something is not working right, I would really say, yeah, that's good. Keep that as a motivation to find out what else you really want to do with your energy.
Thank you very much. This was really beautiful to listen to. What touched me when you were speaking about it actually disconnects. And then it brings very easy and fast, very cheap satisfaction in a way. And because I'm working with couples as well on a very deep level, it touched me actually. That would be my question. If you have any experience with this, what this brings to a relationship. From my point of view, it usually brings a disaster. Especially for women, they don't understand it. if it is just a man doing this or watching porn. And many men feel like this is okay.
Right.
I can watch porn and it has no effect on my relationship. They are not aware of it. But if I would ask his wife, she would say completely different things. Because it's, in a way, this is like cheating on some level, from my point of view as well. Why is he not giving attention to his wife? Why is he watching some, as you said, science fiction of bodies on a television? So I'm just summing up what I heard, and I'm reflecting for you guys who are listening. Really think about it. Really think about it and ask your wife authentically if she's really happy if you're watching porn. If she's really happy that you're doing such things, just ask her and you will see what will be the reply. So And what I also liked about what you were saying, actually, people may be very scared of really investing and really exploring who they are, what is the energy, how they should solve out the relationship stuff and conflicts. And sexuality is very touching. Intimacy is really, it's not so easy. It's not available every day. So my next question would be, what would you recommend to a man who just made this awareness available? Well, there might be something not so good about watching porn. What would you recommend to change to a man like this? What should he do differently, or so that he can really manage? What would be your advice, the tool, how to cope with porn?
Right. Right. So there's a few steps that I could outline with this. And just the last reference to what you said before, I think it's possible, just to open the scope again, I think it's potentially possible that you are in a full functioning relationship and there is porn consumption in the household happening and it does not affect the relationship on a deep level. I think it's possible, potentially, but I think it's very good to be really looking at this very honest. Because mostly when we say, no, it's not effect, we're actually not looking. And also it can be that we only talked about men now because that's the theme for today that we meet, but it also affects women. It's not only that only men are watching porn, it's also quite a lot of women. And so it can even be cross what we are talking now. So just to open to all the possibilities. And it can even be that the wife says, yeah, no, it's fine with me. And both kind of in a way have agreed to outsource some parts of the sexuality to this territory, which it's everybody's free choice to do. But I would want to speak to the people that feel there's something more than just being okay or satisfied in life. It's like if you want to feel, oh, there's more to me generally, not only sexually, but to me generally as a man, sexuality is a treasure of where to look because there's a lot of energy in there. So if you're getting curious about this question, the first place I would just suggest is to kind of mentally make a question mark on your relationship to sexuality and to porn. And for a week or two, kind of observe as if you're making it an internal journal or you're writing a diary. How is it? When do I get attracted? When I'm watching porn or masturbating, what was happening before? Like, was there anything that led to this? Was I feeling bored, stressed, lonely, overexcited, whatever? And I don't bring it to my relationship. If I have a relationship, I bring it to my relationship with the love of the internet. Becomes an intimate partner. And also to watch how do you feel afterwards, and not to take my word or your word of how you should feel about it, but to kind of be a scientist for yourself and observe, make a test on yourself. How do you feel before? What's going on? How do you feel afterward? And how does this, over the scope of a few weeks, what do you see as patterns? Because mostly these patterns have to do with some emotional states. This does not just happen because. No, it's mostly there's a process in me where maybe I learned at one point that I get satisfaction when I feel or like I come out of my loneliness by engaging in sexual activity, or I can release my stress or anything like this. So that's the first thing, to kind of observe yourself and just notice what's going on. The next step would be, if you have a friend or if you have a therapist or a mentor that you trust, talk about it. Or also your wife, your partner, if you have that level of intimacy and openness to talk, just talk about it, and not to judge or ask, but just like, how is it for you? Like to get to know each other, because what you said, or what we said before, what happens in our modern world with the internet and with porn, it makes so much disconnection. So we're so lonely. And loneliness is like the fucking hardest thing for us human beings when we feel internally isolated. So the biggest and best remedy for so many struggles that we have is to learn to bring things into contact, but in a place where I feel safe, where I don't feel the person will immediately reject me or judge me, where there's kind of a space of mutual interest. Let's talk about, how is this for you? Oh, and yeah, that's how it happens for me. And to be open and not quick with you should do this or you shouldn't do that, because that mostly shuts down and we get more lonely, and then we most probably at one point go back to our patterns even stronger. So if you want change, we have to do things in a different way and find connections in a different way. So if you can connect with somebody else, that's a very good thing. And another thing that you can do is just take a break, make a diet, make a fast, and you can do this with porn. You can do this also with the other addictive online stuff like Facebook or any addiction that you have. Like, take a break for at least 3 weeks, let's say, and just see what happens. Also make a journal and write down. And you see, it's kind of interesting. It's like also starting to build your muscle of discipline and kind of willfulness. And start with those kind of simple things that you can do in any moment and see what happens. Start talking with friends about it. And of course, then there we can still talk. There are further things. If this is a bigger issue, then you might also maybe get some professional support or help, or go to self-help groups or those trainings for men and start bring it into a place where you trust you can really share and talk with each other in a healthy way. And like in the internet, there's already there's these two kind of parties that kind of are looking at each other with not so much friendliness in regard to porn. There's those that say, like you said, like, I mean, I watch porn, I'm an adult human being, like, it's just a little fun I have with myself, nothing wrong with it. A certain truth is there, but mostly it's more to it than we say. And then there is another counter movement that comes up already, even on the internet. Many young people, there's kind of like a community that say, like, stop porn and masturbating completely. Like, I think it's called NoFap. Movement. You can even get online support, which to some degree I also think it's a helpful tool for some men to make that experience. Oh, I can live without masturbation for 3 weeks and I'm not going to die. Or because many men have never done that, so it's a good experience. And still, I think it's not the ultimate solution, because the ultimate solution is to transcend this or that and kind of understand how I function and learn to kind of overcome or outgrow in a natural way these tendencies, so that I'm not so much, anytime I see an advertisement on the internet, I go like an automatic robot, because that's how often we function. But I can I see it does something in my body, but I can choose where I go with this energy. And this is more what I would call what makes or constitutes a conscious masculine sexuality, that I feel my drive, I know this is power in me, and I have more and more capacity to make a conscious choice of how I want to engage and spend this energy, where I want to invest it. And it doesn't mean that I'm perfect, that I'm never gonna fall into my patterns, or that I sometimes go for this. Also, that's not the case. It's not about being ascetic and holy, because we're not. And if anybody tells you he's completely beyond and holier, then it's like, let's see. Sexuality is a tricky topic, but to become more and more really adult and mature in this, like, I'm not run by my desire, but I feel my desire. And I sometimes say sexuality is like our car. It drives the fuel in our car. And when we want to drive faster, we have to be more alert. We have to be more conscious. If I drive with 20 miles an hour, I can look to the side. I can have my little habits, maybe speak on the phone and like drink a coffee next to it. It's not so dangerous. But if I want to drive with 100 miles or 150 miles an hour, because I have a powerful car and I can go faster, I cannot do the same habits and patterns anymore because it gets dangerous. So if I want to have more power in my life and I want to kind of live a bigger life or just more full life, I need to look at my patterns. And again, in some way then porn is good because it gives us some kind of idea. If we look honestly, where am I? And where are things I might have to look further or deeper in myself? And it's kind of like the raw material for my growth as a man. So thanks to the porn industry, it gives us a big opportunity in a way to look at where we are as men right now.
Thank you very much. I think hopefully everybody listening to us gets some idea which way this actually goes. What is this invitation from porn? This, on a first level, feeling good, making it easy. On the second level, oh, this is dangerous. This is very harmful. Don't go that way. I feel this attitude of conscious sexuality of a man is a level just above of these two, like seeing it as it is, feeling it as it is, and then you go your own way, which actually brings me a question, but you already give it a little answer in the last sharing you just said. What do you actually do with men in the conscious sexuality training, which takes almost a year long? What actually do you do, and can this training be helpful to anybody related to porn or any sexuality issue, relationship issue with women?
Yes. So this training, which is like a longer format of all the work that I do with men, which is like I bring all the different aspects of working with men into one training. It's really, I really enjoy the process because it gives you a really deep dive and the foundation of understanding how you as a man very individually work, but also a much bigger view of how we all together as human beings and men in this way work, and how relationships work between men and women sexually, but also just normal day-to-day interactions, because the principles are very much the same. And still this training is focused on developing a more healthy and conscious attitude to the power of my sexuality as a man. And I emphasize this word power because it's not a training for getting tools and methods and trainings and tips and tricks how to be a better performer in lovemaking. This might be a consequence of doing the training because you learn how to practice certain things that you don't know before maybe. But it's not about just another trick, another method, because it's not about the methods. It's not about a technique. We learn many techniques, but it's not life. Conscious life is not a trick that you solve and then it's done. It's like an invitation to grow and to live life fuller. And so it's basically an exploration of your power, because your sexuality is your power. That's your capacity to create the life that you want, to create the relationships that you want, to find the mission that you want to live in your life. And a lot of men like struggle with relationships, and so there's a lot to learn in relationship to women and to the sexuality of women. How is it different from the sexuality of men? How is the feminine approach? How is the masculine approach? How this lives in me, and how this plays out maybe in the relationship that I have with a woman or a man on the outside in real. So we go very deliberately, step by step. There's like 4 modules through these different territories, like starting with the more masculine side, my connection to my power, my instinct, my will, my capacity, how I go into conflict or not, and how that works in relationships and in sexuality. And we look more also at the feminine side, how is my relationship to feelings, to the emotional world, and how my masculine and my feminine side in me, kind of how they are connected or disconnected. And then go through 2 more models where we go in one place a lot into kind of a shadow work, to the work with the aspects in ourselves that we're normally not aware. And in the last module, look what we started in already in the first module, look very clearly how to bring all this together into one new way or approach of exploring my conscious sexuality in the way I want to live this right now. And so you don't have to have a problem in sexuality or with porn to benefit from this training. It's basically an invitation to grow. And sometimes this comes out of the place of an actual problem or a struggle that you have. And it's very supportive to come together with men and to explore this deeper in yourself, and also learn in the company with other men from their explorations and their struggles. But sometimes it's just a motivation to find more, like what's next, like we all, maybe life's even working well, but you feel like, so what's next? Like, what's the next step of living more full, with more, even more inner fulfillment? Because sexuality is our deepest drive, but often is also the place where we are the deepest kind of conditioned or wounded even. There's a lot of people that carry sometimes very deep wounds in this. And as you well know, like these things carry a big gift. If we can bring that into contact and into a space, it really can help us to move further in life in things that we didn't even know. And so there's a lot of information and things that you learn, practices, body practices, emotional practices, meditation techniques and things like this, that will give you a lot of material to understand and to also apply and practice. But very importantly is also that it gives you kind of like a practice container, a safe group that you're part of for almost a year, that gives you an enormous boost and possibility to move and to motivate yourself for change and for transformation and for healing. Because we also know that, like, now the new year has started and everybody starts maybe with a good idea or motivation, what I will do in 2019. And you can check now, it's the 14th of January, you can see if it's still alive in you right now. Sometimes these good ideas, they don't last very long because we get drowned so easily in our habits. And for this, it's very powerful and very, very helpful to have a kind of a practice community where you have all these other men, and they kind of remind you and you remind them to keep going with what you want to learn. Because sometimes it's hard, But if you have somebody next to you, left and right and in the back, and we all want to learn together, it's very, very powerful. So this bringing men together to look at sexuality, at power, at shame, at love, and all those things is, in my opinion, really a powerful boost to any step of growth or healing that you're about to make as a man.
This is so healing, is it? I'm really happy that we've been doing this work together for 5 years already. This is going to be 6th year, I guess. And I really adore this invitation, and hopefully you guys who are listening, you feel the same. Because I believe for us men, it is time to really grow, to really dive in deeper, to be much more honest than we are used to. Because I've been also in the training in the first round, in the second round, assisting. And what I really was touched by was that so many men are really willing to listen to themselves and to really go and find the new truth, the new path. So this may be also something that applies to you, whoever you are listening and watching us. That together with Gregore, and mostly with him, we created a space where this is possible. To really go and find your new way of living your life and relationships, rather than copying either your father's or your family's way or the cultural way. And this is also a new step for us, for men, that we step out just from the single, just me scope. That we go and say it's us, men, together. And it used to be like this in old cultures, that many men just got together and with this great force created, they could really go somewhere much more deeper and more sacred in a way. Because sexuality is for me very sacred power. And I really like your work, your spiritual attitude to this topic and to the way how you work with men. It's very gentle in a way and spiritual. So from my point of view, I would recommend this to any man to go through, to really know and to really touch the deepest intimate part of ourselves, which is our penis, sexuality, intimacy. It's a really good step to start with, and then go to talk with your wife about such things. Because many men and women as well, they just forget it. They don't talk about sex. Everybody's so ashamed that this is something happening out there someday. And it's so painful, is it?
Right.
So, yeah, maybe one more question. Do you believe or do you think that this work that you do also helps men to really cope with shame and the bad feelings about themselves, not just related to sexuality, but generally? Is there not to speak, a cure? Is there a support to really grow out of this in such a training?
I'm really glad that you asked this. I wanted to mention this anyway still, because again, we could say porn does us a favor in the way it shows up in our world right now, because it also leads us to what I would call like a shame epidemic in the world. And this again applies a lot to men, that so many men, without mostly knowing about it, are suffering from the effects of shame. And this means that maybe you feel like chronically not strong enough in your body, you feel chronically guilty in relationships, you feel chronically something's wrong with yourself, or you're you're constantly unhappy about how you look, what you do, what you earn, like constantly a feeling of like something's not right or not good with me. And of course, in sexuality, it's very easy to feel that. But as you said, it's not just in sex, it's sometimes like a constant atmosphere of life, like something's not right with me. And in my opinion, this is one, next to sex, one of the big things that it's also important that men start to speak about and share about and learn about. And I absolutely agree that there is a possibility to outgrow that as well, at least to a way where it feels it's just like part of it is normal as a human being, but it can also be so heavy on people that it feels really like life's not fun. If it's like you're under the cloud, like in a cartoon, it's raining on you all the time. It's just like, it's not fun, you know? And so this training, we work a lot with this, which is basically to reclaim your dignity, because when we are ashamed, we lose the feeling of like I'm proud to be me, not because I'm so amazing, but just like it's good to be me. So that is a big part through the work with sexuality, but just about the way to be with yourself as a man. And for it's very helpful to be with other men and to see, you know, I always thought I'm the one that feels like this and everybody's okay. And then you ask that in a circle of 30 men and everybody raises the arm and says, I feel like this. So it's kind of like an epidemic that we live in. So yes, absolutely. There is a cure, and the cure is human interaction and human connection. And out of this, a different awareness and consciousness, how I relate to myself, how I talk to myself. And it's not something that happens like this, like everything's gone, a magic pill and you're done. But it's an invitation to practice, and we can learn this. And I've seen so many men, I mean, this were just in the Czech Republic with these rounds, like 5 rounds now, there's like more than hundreds of men. And with all the other people around the world that I worked, if you really go into the work, and sometimes it's not easy, it's kind of, it takes like your heroic willingness to go through something. But if you really go with the work, it really is like the cloud opens and more sun comes through. Still, it rains sometimes, and you have these days, it feels like the same, but more and more the sun opens, and you see, and there's sun there, and I can enjoy the cloud, and I know this is life, but I know I'm here, and I can practice this, and I can reach out to friends, which is a side effect of the training often, that people form really strong friendships. And I think this is, maybe as the last word, the vision that I feel really passionately working for, that men come out of this very often isolated states and come back to a place of feel that it's natural for us to come together. Like you said, like in all the cultures, when there was a problem, not everybody was like, how do I feel? How do I solve this? It was the tribe comes together. And even though we're billions of people all over the world, but porn is one problem that we all have. So in a way, it's like we men need to come together as a tribe and say, what's happening here? How do we deal with this? And maybe, like you said, we will, if we really feel the call to grow as men, maybe we develop and we get more mature and more wise. And at one point we say, yeah, there was this thing with porn, right? It's kind of like a toy that many people used to have a problem with. Now it still exists, but it's not, it doesn't control us anymore. We know about it, and it doesn't have the same hook on us that it used to have. I think that's the vision that we can all start working together. But it starts with my question as a man right now. And the next step that I can take is a step to the bigger healing that we're all invited to.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for very beautiful sharing. Thank you very much for actually carrying this vision. Because for me, this is still very unique and very rare and very experienced and very adult in a way to approach sexuality, and especially men's sexuality, because nowadays there is plenty of workshops, trainings related to sexuality, but most of it is one direction, it's tantra or something ecstatic, which is beautiful as well. But from my point of view, what you are doing, you are building base, you are creating the basement, which is very needed, it's very necessary to have. And then you can go to tantra and explore more. So I would add to this invitation that if you really need to find something very deep inside of you, the base, the root of your being, of your man being, go through this training and you will find out, not here, but in your body, you will integrate.
Right.
So I'm very glad this training is still in my body. I know it's been so many years now, but I come to it from time to time, not to the specific method, but to something that this has created inside of me. And now today I just take it as a nature. This is nothing special for me now.
Exactly.
But if I go to, say, people who do not do such things, I feel shame on their side. They're scared of speaking. If the word sex is like, should we even talk about it? It's something, for me it's very natural because sexuality is natural. So thank you again for the training because it helped me quite a lot in my life. And this heart invitation is lying in my body to invite all men to really taste, experience and enjoy in your body with this raw, beautiful work that you do. So if there is anything to say as an ending, as a final word, either to the topic, either to the training itself, what would it be from your side?
I think I would take something that you just said because I found it beautiful, that it still resonates in your being, that, and this is really the wish that we as men learn to relate to all these things again in a natural way, but in a way that is really connected to our power and to our awareness and to our heart and to our instinct in a really integrated way. Like you said, it still resonates in your body, it has a space, and then it just becomes a natural expression without thinking so much what is the right thing to do, but it just like you just feel it. And I think this is really what you said, also what I care about, to kind of provide this base for men to come into this space. And it's a bit like we provide a space that we would all have actually needed when we were, ideally when we would have been teenagers, we would have needed such kind of work to get an orientation. What is all there? How does this body work? How does these emotions work? How does relationships work? And how do I make choices that leads to more fulfillment and to more happiness for me and the people around? And it's possible. It's not rocket science. It's possible when we get together and we learn and we practice, we start understanding much more, but from inside. It's not from just learning it through a book. The best learning really happens through the body, because there's a lot of work that we do with the body. So I would just say an invitation, or extend my invitation to everybody's listening. If you feel called to kind of fill these places that long for a real experience of a healthy form of your power and your sexuality, you're very welcome. And if you come for healing, if you come for growth, if you come just out of curiosity of wanting to learn more about life, you're very welcome, and the space is open for you. And together we create always something really uniquely beautiful. And I learn each time, so it's not the same. It's the same basis that I teach, but each time is really unique, and I'm learning a lot. So I'm happy that people come and we create a different world together. It's my wish and my love. And thank you for making it possible and holding this vision. I feel really your care and the work you do with men, with you and Stanek together with the other men. It's a beautiful, amazing vision that you transmit, and that we can all as men create a different world together. So thanks for that. Really
thank you very much. Thank you very much. I'm happy that we go together in a way.
Right.
Makes me bigger in a sense. So thanks a lot for very beautiful sharing, for inviting men here to the beautiful training of conscious man sexuality. You are all very invited by heart. If you feel any interest, it's good. If you feel interested, go and try. If you feel scared, go and try. Because the fear is a very good drive for men. And explore the fear. And then you can become more liberated in a way inside of your body. So thank you again, Kushru, for making this possible, for holding it. And
thank you, Václav.
I'm feeling really honored, actually, with this cooperation that we have together. It's beautiful.
Yeah, same for me.
Okay, guys, thank you for watching us. And maybe
bye. Ciao, everybody. Dobrý den.
You can meet Gregor anytime in the future, either in the training or individual sessions, whatever. Okay, ciao.
Bye-bye.